He's a great writer, deep thinker, and after a lot of great conversations with him, I can assure you that he has a very brilliant and creative mind, and we should all be excited to hear what he has to share with us today.
Thank you, Devin. It's very kind. Thanks, Professor Gazari and Professor John Gordon for their input on my thesis and for 4 years of support and advice. I want to thank Alex Celia, Caroline Azar, Sarah Pisano, and Michael Netriello for being serious writers and for creating a space where stories can be shared. And I want to thank Blanche Boyd for teaching me everything I know about writing and reading stories. I have 2 stories there, and both of them could fit the time period we have that I haven't decided yet to read. One of them is about drone strikes, and the other is about a home invasion. One is set in South Asia, and the other is set in New London.
Is the drone strikes one set in New London?
I also want to apologize to Professor Strabon for missing our appointment early this afternoon. The story titled Once Upon a Time on a Mountain Pass. The small town is on a mountain pass once used by Alexander's army in South Waziristan near the Durand line, which separates the Pashtun tribes in Pakistan and Afghanistan. It is nighttime, and everything seems still. Babies sleep peacefully in their cribs, and the mothers sleep peacefully, and the fathers sleep peacefully. But the babies and the fathers and the mothers know that the stillness is uncertain, so they must use it. In an unusually well-lit house, a bride sleeps still, and beside her the new husband sleeps still. In other rooms of the house, the bride's 5 sisters staying over on the wedding night as custom sleep still. Their bodies are night still, lost in serene forgetfulness. Some things are good to forget at nighttime. In the same well-lit house, an old man, probably someone's grandfather, sits in a large room smoking his hookah. His breathing is measured, as if he knows something about the night, as if he knows that the fleeting stillness, his precarious poise, might vanish like a wizard in a fairy tale children are told before they fall asleep on the still and not so still nights around the world. From time to time, he looks up at the sky through the window, where somewhere, invisible to him, remote-controlled birds, called machar, are flying. And their buzzing, easily overheard most days, seems to ring a mournful siren in his head, a sound powerful enough to puncture the temporary peace of any still night. Sergeant Murad, my adjutant stationed outside, nods from his cramped position of relative proximity, while I read Macbeth in the tender dim light of a gas lamp. I cannot make friends with my men, so I read tales of misunderstood kings late into the morning. It is among marshes on the edge of a forest that we are stationed. I must call my mother soon and remind myself, for as a captain, the 3rd highest ranked officer in the regiment, I get one phone call from the satellite phone, otherwise reserved for emergency communication. Murad keeps watch on a cherry lawn chair, which is an oddity in the foothills of Kohe Suleiman, and he smokes from a pipe shaped like a crescent. As a sergeant in the Pakistan Army, he makes less money in a month than a friend of mine who works in an American bar on a weekend night and tips alone. But Murad's nonchalance, which he exudes with a tasteful lethargy, in the same beat as the puffs of smoke, says that he owns the wide expanses of forests around us. His mustache is wild and concave and interesting. One word, interesting. We will sit outside all night in the cherry lawn chair. Machar, the name of a town in Ontario, Canada, the surname of South Sudan's first vice president, the Hebrew word for tomorrow, the name of the Washington Congregation for Secular Humanistic Judaism, the name of a church, a saint in a bar in Aberdeen, a colony in Karachi famous for its disease-spreading mosquito-ridden street corners, the name for a mosquito in several South Asian languages, an Urdu word, one syllable, hard to pronounce without a faint hiss, whispered with a mixture of fear and contempt in this small town. My commanding officer, Colonel Karamat, watches Pushpa movies on VCR, asks for the morning rota at the staff meetings, and chews Niswar. He and I have an unspoken understanding. We both think that I cannot be trusted with anything. During our first meeting, we were stationed in Miran Shadan, around conifers that never shed leaves, an oddity in the asked me if I know any jokes, and I told him the one about the king who finds that his wife is cheating on him with all the servants. And now when I ask him to spread the men out to collect intel, nurture assets, map the terrain, and do the things that armies around the world do when they fight a civil war, he waves his hand at me. It's a flick of the wrist. Colonel Karamat is too much of a soldier to know that in North Africa this gesture means literally Allah's particular curse be on you. Unwittingly and intuitively, the colonel, a most respectable and dignified soldier, puts me in my place and lets me know what he thinks of me. In what seemed like the last vestiges of the night, I get woken up by Murad. There has been another one, he says in the dark. I only see a mustache move, and I'm up on my feet. We take the jeep because I have the keys, and I let Murad drive. When we get there around the brief interlude between darkness and light, when the crickets are at their loudest, Murad keeps the engine running and looks at me. There's something in his eyes, some message he needs to convey, but I do not get it. He's just afraid, I think. Don't leave the car. Don't move, I tell him. This might take a bit. The tribal man sits next to the rubble and cries in that silent way that is nothing like quiet sobbing. His gun hangs helplessly, loosely at his side. His bloody white turban, unfurled and unraveled, sits on his hands like a question mark. I look around and find other tribal men not so helpless. Their AK-47s are polished and flung on their shoulders like sick swords, religiously. They look at me with that spaced resentment of humans running from some disease. Plague in this case. I'm no plague, I think. I'm just a khaki uniform. Look at the scars on my shoulders. I whisper to the men in Urdu, a language they rarely speak. I do not ask about the rubble or the crying, or is it weeping, sobbing man? We make decisions about the bodies, and I say murda murd, dead man, multiple times. 2 syllables, rhymes when you say them in meter. An enveloping black dust lingers in the air. A train of unescorted chadars is settling down in the backyard. Tribal women are already preparing for the funeral. White cloths are being spread in the garden. My gaze lingers, absorbed by the ritual, but the men press around me tighter, as if sensing my intrusion. Their whispers turn into jeering, muddling everything in the grim blackness that is now overtaking my mind, and I'm suddenly unsure if I came here to offer help or to be saved. There are white beards around me, ancient and tested. Warrior beards I learned tales about when I was young and undamned. For once, I look at them with hope, with a will disposed to being molded, a mind ready to be bent. But then someone curses in Pashto, and I recognize it because I've heard the same phrase whispered behind my back by my own soldiers during morning assembly. A tall tribal man is making strange motions with his hands. His eyes are slits that pierce everyone in the group. I notice the white beards do not hang serenely, but are waving at an angle, as if the wind wants them that way, poised to flash like lightning bolts. The tribal man with gesticulating arms is making me uneasy. Things don't look too good, and I'm afraid. So I leave him. But before I put my feet in the jeep and brush aside the soot that I feel clinging to my skin, my face, my forehead, the shiny labels of my khakis, everywhere on my fingernails, I'm stopped. My wrist is grabbed, and I turn swiftly with my revolver almost unsheathed. But it is a boy. Boy. One word. One syllable. I can feel Murad's gaze fixed at me as I tower over the 5-foot frame. Murad too was born here in Waziristan, and I know from the weight of his gaze fixed at the back of my head that Murad, who has spent the past 3 months at my side, who is the closest thing I have to a friend here, will put one in my head if I do the wrong thing. My left hand is gloved and holding my metal right. The boy's nails press against the naked skin of my right wrist. You, God damn you, he says in English, a language I've not heard spoken for months. I want to laugh, but then I look at the boy closely and swallow the smile before it becomes anything. I notice the boy has blood on his hands, and he too is crying, but it's the silent, elegiac crying of humans in permanent mourning. So I say nothing. There's nothing to say, and the boy finally spits at my shoes. Black spittle. A mixture of swallowed sweat and tears and saliva comes out of his mouth. He's just a boy, I think. What does he know about damn humans? Murad drives me back to the regiment. Captain, sir? Yes? Are you going to report this? Report what, Murad? Nothing everything is as it should be. What about the bride and the other girls? There were other bodies that took away Murad, you know it. We didn't even get to see them, and those were worth it. Sir, I know the strike. They will come for us now. They'll come for everybody. Well, then let them. We have enough matcha for all of them. There's probably 10 still flying over there, just in case. But Captain, the matcha just kills. It doesn't stop bullets. For some time, we're both silent. I think about the Roman ruins I once saw in Bath 5 years ago. There's some connection between Bath and here that my mind wants me to make, and I almost make it. Captain, yes? Do you know where they come from? The matcha? Do you know if they make mistakes? Only if they want to. It all depends. When we get back and I am in my tent again and Murad on his cherry launcher, I can still hear the crickets. The night is still here, I think. And it will stay a while. Still, that is.
Wonderful, moving, thing-filled, people-filled, animal-filled, place-filled work. I think that covers everything. This was truly a wonderful group of readings. I hope you enjoyed them as much as I did. There will be, I promise you, there will be food outside, but catering is running late, so talk amongst yourselves for a few minutes, and we'll all hope together that the food will be there by the time we're ready to buy. So thank you everyone for coming.